And until then, I'll just whine about the new AI. Or UI. Words. 9 water on this map. 9. And no ice. Good luck, have fun, you two. Oh, man. No scientists this game, that's for sure. This is an expansive game. Or a robot game. This might be a robot game. You've got some decent area down here for a robot. Yeah, silicon is plentiful. Iron is plentiful. You could actually just dump robot. Nah, you can't really do the power strategy in a 1v1. Whoa! What is happening over here? I just hurt my own head. Quite badly, actually. But Gameslayer going scientific. Whatever. I don't need no water. Yeah, look at all these geos. It's ridiculous. Look at these geos. What is this? Crazy. Yerand going for, in my opinion, the far more sensible route of, I'm going to play Expansive. Because look at this map, guys. Let's be honest. Scientist on this map? I'm really not sure about that. There's a lot of dry ice to take advantage of if you have a lot of extra tiles. We've broken the UI again with this found order bonus showing up. That's fantastic.
Our growth is surpassing my most optimistic.
You've got good access to steel, right? But there's not a single water triangle on this map.
Expansive colony.
I'm worried about this. Let's see how it turns out for Gameslayer, though. Yerand is just going to claim the 2 amazing waters on the map. That could work out pretty well for him long term. He's got 3 claims left due to the fact that he founded late, so he's just going to go into steel and push to that HQ3 before he really worries about making money in this situation. On top of that, Gameslayer still hasn't grabbed any aluminum up, so Yerand can really punish him with that, potentially. Gameslayer didn't see the ridiculous water. That's not good. So it looked like if those weren't on the map, Yerand would still be okay, but he'd be a lot more nukeable. With these on the map, even nukes aren't going to pan out great for him. Did he end up just taking 1 of these so far? Looks like he's only got 1 so far. 32,000 for that claim. Gameslayer definitely pushing to try and make up for his current situation. He is going to grab an aluminum tile with that. I think that's a good idea. Man. I like it when they get new buildings, but doesn't this just look silly? Sorry. We had to take a look at that. So just 1 of those tiles over to Yerand so far. What's he done with his extra claim? Oh, it's on this geotherm over here. That makes sense. Interesting that he went for this geotherm instead of this geotherm. This is definitely the geotherm I would have taken, because I'm a bit of a jerk sometimes. We'll see what happens. Gameslayer already in C levels of debt. That's a 20% interest rate. It didn't kill him last game, but he had a dust storm that really helped him out with that. So we'll have to see how it pans out this time. Freeze on the steel. Very aggressive, straightforward move. Certainly a good decision in my opinion. But we're also going to have a mutiny on aluminum. That's going to be a little bit less effective. That's not going to get as much work done, but it will make things a little bit awkward for Gameslayer, potentially, as he expands. He will have to pay a fair amount of money for that aluminum. Currently, it's going to cost him about $5,000. The advantage that Yerand has, though, is if he pulls in any extra money, he could actually sell down this glass right now. If he's paying real close attention to these prices, he could sell down glass, buy up aluminum, drive that price up, and that would actually be the step that makes it harder for Gameslayer to expand. But he didn't spot it, so he's not going to be doing that. On the bright side for him, aluminum did jump up to $43. So he will make a bit of cash off that. Nowhere close to an expansion, though. Not having access to his steel for a good minute and a half on average is kind of a big deal, and it's going to punish him quite badly. Gameslayer does go ahead and use up that last water tile in this area. Just a little food and a little oxygen and fuel coming in for him. And where else are we going to be claiming for Gameslayer? It looks like he's got this geotherm right here. An important thing to take for sure. Ah, excellent. Had a magnetic storm coming down. It's going to be interesting to see if Gameslayer can keep separating out his launches so he doesn't get wrecked by a magnetic storm. Magnetic storm you have to pay a lot more attention to than pirates. Yeah, I don't know why ships always look full. That's kind of gross in my opinion. I think ships need to show the amount of resources they're sending. I really hope it's a bug. I haven't seen that addressed just yet. But if Gameslayer can try and catch Yerand out with those storms by sending ships that look full and aren't, that will give him a significant advantage this game. 18,000 for that over to Yerand, both of them in C levels of debt. Gameslayer much closer to that D level, though. It looks like he's at 120,000 debt already, and has shown no inclination whatsoever to start doing anything about it. Just this one little geotherm claim. There, finally he's taken it. A little bit late there. Taking that a little bit earlier would have been a bit better, but it'll still probably work out for him. And with that expansion, Yerand is back in B, so he's doing alright in that front. Solar flare going on right now. Neither player really seems to care. No solar panels of any kind coming out for either of them. Just more steel, more reactors for Yerand. Nobody cares about debt in the 1v1 situation, apparently. They just want to make just enough money to kill that one guy. It is an interesting situation. In a big game, you obviously have to worry about debt, because you can't kill just one guy and then recover from debt all the time. Sometimes you really need to be paying attention to it. You need to make sure to curtail that death spiral. But in a 1v1, as long as you don't actually spiral out, you'll usually end up okay. Gameslayer's sitting on a ridiculous amount of steel right now, almost 180. Glass has really not moved up yet at all at this point, just because neither player... There we go, Gameslayer finally prepping his level 4 glass. That's going to be good to go. And what else are we going to have happening here? Another freeze onto steel should be no big surprise. Gameslayer really trying to drive that price up, it looks like. And make sure that he punishes his opponent for the fact that he is expansive. Oh wow, solar panels actually coming out now. Unfortunately, they've missed the solar flare. And nighttime is on the way. So this is a little bit late for Yerand, who is now also in that D rating of debt. Yerand and Gameslayer both sitting there. Gameslayer has pushed to HQ4. Despite that, is still in this D level of debt. And will be accruing a lot of interest. So he's going to need to be rushing through things in order to deal with that quickly. But glass furnaces have come down for him. I guess they're all right. I mean, glass is doing okay, 126, right? These should be making some money. Once the adjacency bonuses are all done, despite the fact that they don't have access to silicon easily. Gameslayer went ahead and took a high silicon a while ago. And he's going to have those 3 glass furnaces running just fine. Now, I will say about this, after trying it out again and again and again and again and again, I'm starting to really enjoy the double glass furnace. You don't need a lot of glass. It feels a little inefficient. It's only 3 instead of 5 total glass furnaces. And that's not really great. That's not really what you're looking for. But it doesn't flood the glass market all that badly. It doesn't send silicon sky high. If you can get a hold of 1 silicon tile, well, then you're feeding your glass furnaces just fine. You don't flood the market at all. You've got that extra claim to commit somewhere else. So I'm really enjoying going for just 2 glass furnaces these days instead of 3. We'll have to see how it pans out for Gameslayer here. Yerand also has gone for 3 glass furnaces. It is worth paying attention to, by the way. So they're both, as you can tell, these things are becoming highly unprofitable very quickly. I think if I saw my opponent going 3 glass furnaces, I'd probably just ignore glass completely, if I'm being honest. Already, no money. No money out of these. They're just adding to his debt. That's it. That's all they're doing.
The black market
Oh, we have some dry ice condensers coming down for Yerand. I kind of like it. In response to the fact that glass is not doing so hot. Ah, yeah, there we go. A crippling network virus, which is actually just going to be... Oh, yeah. And that thing is area of effect now, isn't it? Once again, area of effect on the network virus. Incredibly punishing to get hit by. I don't know why that turned back to being area of effect instead of single tile, but... This is what happens, guys. This is what happens. Gameslayer is going to be making a little bit of money, well, not even on his silicon, because he's having to burn through it so fast. But despite all this weirdness, he has managed to push to HQ5. Looks like Yerand gave up on his virus play. The downside of that is you really do need a lot of floating cash in order to punish your opponent in a situation like that. Was it worthwhile? I don't know. It depends on how much he delayed his upgrade, how much other money he could have been making. But there is something to be said for the fact that Gameslayer's stock price is $7. That's really not very good. That is not good for him at all right now. Okay. Yerand finally moving into food. Almost certainly a good decision. These farms have been doing absolutely great work for Gameslayer all game long. Should be no surprise whatsoever. As a scientist, farms are one of your two primary tools for making a ridiculous amount of money all game long. Production stopped. Needs silicon. Well, that's fortunate for Gameslayer. Every moment these things are requiring silicon. Thank you. Finally turned them off. That only took forever. A lot of aluminum coming in for Gameslayer now, too, which is kind of a big deal. Aluminum's up at $60, and Yerand does not have enough coming in to really support himself up to that next upgrade. He's just kind of been struggling with these black market attacks that got thrown at him early, with maybe some trying to make some decent use of mutinies or fancier plays. It's let Gameslayer go ahead and push to HQ5 and start making some real money fairly soon, whereas Yerand, he's still going to be looking for that next upgrade. He does have the 2 water at this point, which is a big deal. That's 6 water a second. Definitely something he's going to be looking for. Gameslayer, I'm not too surprised these haven't been nuked yet, but it certainly could have been a hilarious play this game, and potentially a very effective one. You nuke down your opponent's water, you set him back, with 2 nukes, you set him back to 3 water per second instead of 6. If you dump 2 more on top of that, he's down to, I think, like 2/3 of a water per second, something like that. Not a good way to be at all. And it also really helps you easily try and make a lot of money off of your own water resources as a scientist. Oh wow, electrolysis reactors coming down for Gameslayer off of water. Well, I mean, they kind of have to be. Nope, he changed his mind. He's like, never mind, that's a terrible decision. I'm going to make steel. Probably a bit more reasonable. Likely trying to push to that Offworld. Probably wants to go ahead and get there. It's very worrying for him. He hasn't gotten there yet. On top of that, Yerand, he's down to 34,000 debt. I need to point this out right now. Gameslayer's stock price is actually $6. It's actually $6. It's almost 1/3 of his opponent's stock price. What that means is Yerand only needs to make about 1/3 of the money that Gameslayer does to finish up this game. So Yerand doesn't even have to push for an Offworld at this point, potentially. He doesn't have to do anything like that. He can force... He is pushing for an Offworld. I need to point that out. But, like, he could sell down all of his resources and immediately purchase up, like, what, 80% of his opponent? This is a Gameslayer. This is classic Gameslayer, let's be honest. He just ignored debt for too long. He couldn't make enough money to get away with that, I think mostly due to the fact that he was locked out of his water resources. And Yerand, he's probably going to put this Offworld down. Yeah, there it goes. And it is, honestly, it is a very safe play to do. If his opponent had an Offworld down already, I would say that was definitely a mistake. Hands down. If Gameslayer had an Offworld down before Yerand did, if it was like already complete or close to complete, getting a send before long, that kind of thing, I would call it flat out a mistake, no question. But because Yerand put himself into a position where he was actually in the lead, it worked out fine. It's going to be just fine. His Offworld is super cheap. He can get it down very easily. And he still has over triple his opponent's stock price. So this game is basically, it's all a formality from here on out, right? If these players play it out perfectly from here on out, if Yerand just pays attention and honestly just keeps a goon squad on this thing and keeps it launching oxygen, this game will be completely and totally over, and there's nothing Gameslayer can do about it. Let's go ahead and see what happens. Gameslayer is trying to put up a bit of a fight by buying up his own stock after having gotten this Offworld started. Unfortunately for him, his Offworld is frozen and not building right now. And he did manage to get 6 of his own stock, so Yerand is going to require $97,000 to clean up this game. But as you can see, look at that dropping by like 50 a second. Gameslayer is in a complete death spiral, and this game is over in mere moments. Look at this death spiral. How amazing is that? That is something special. He actually has more punishment from his debt than he does assets, is what's gone on right now. Oh man, $12,000 to buy Gameslayer, the absolute lowest stock price he can have at this point in the game. I don't know what Yerand's waiting on, but this game is finally completely over. He is locked out of black market. That's a fair point. But still, you usually buy goon squads just in case weird things happen. I think he just wanted to get that launch off, but it does kind of prove the point that the Offworld was unnecessary. He didn't even get the launch off, did he? It's at 0 seconds. It's not even registered over here. Alright then. That was a bit silly. Gameslayer actually made way more money on World than Yerand did. It's worth paying attention to, but it all comes down to this column and this column. Because this is where all of Yerand's money came from, right? It's all right here. That's all it was that game. Definitely something to keep in mind against an opponent who doesn't have any power down. Especially if you can regulate the amount of power you're putting out with things like these. Yeah, just pointing it out. That is why Yerand prioritized this guy earlier in the game, to make sure he got the adjacency, by the way, instead of doing the thing I do, which is just piss my opponent off as much as I can. Because it's more fun that way. His is almost certainly a better call. It's just not... If you want to do that, that's fine. Let's look at black market that game. Gameslayer obviously didn't do a whole lot with it because he literally was locked out of it for, I think, over half the game. 1 mutiny, 1 power surge, 1 EMP. He got a lot done with the 2, you know, particularly aggressive items he purchased in slowing his opponent down. It just wasn't quite enough. Whereas Yerand went for 2 network viruses, 3 mutinies, a power surge, 2 storms, and 2 goon squads. So he's just fine on that front. Alright guys, there's really not a lot to say about that one besides, look, you gotta, like, just don't die to debt. Don't death spiral. It was literally a death spiral, that game. It's as low as you can go. And that's all you gotta say about it.